really noisy. Anyway, let's talk about the way that everybody is wrong about the rich men north of Richmond song, and the writer of the song himself is also incorrect. And this is a perfect example of why people, they look at me and they think I'm a little bit anal about, proper word usage. This is a prime example of why words have meanings and we should get familiar with them and use them appropriately to avoid just this type of confusion. So the conversation here is about the political nature of the song, right? So Oliver, I'm gonna mess his name up. I'm just gonna call him Oliver. Sorry. So he complained that the song was not meant to be political. He doesn't want it to be political. Um, so people are saying that doesn't make any sense. This song is overtly political because he talks about Jeffrey Epstein, and you know, it's clearly a political song, right? So it's like, hey guy, what are you talking about? Your song is political. So there's a whole back and forth about it's political. He says it's not political. What's going on? I can almost guarantee you no other channel is going to provide this level of insight. You're going to see a lot of people going back and forth with this conversation, and not one of them is going to realize what the true problem is. The true problem is that a lot of people have been misusing the word political, right? And this is something I've talked about many, many times. And this is the cause of that. This is the result of that, right? So Oliver clearly has been watching a lot of these politicians talking about, we don't want this to be political, and this is a political thing. It's a political witch hunt. The indictment is political. This is political. Everything's political. Okay, I'll say it once again. Politicians, right, do politics, right? The word political is basically the action that politicians take, right? Everything that government does is, by definition, political, right? Politics is the functioning of our government, right? When they're voting on stuff, they're doing elections, all the stuff that the government does, it's political. It's just like a doctor. All the stuff a doctor does in a hospital, it's medical, right? He's in the medical profession, medical medicine, right? It's all medical, right? Just like automotive. If you're in the automotive industry, everything you're doing is automotive or mechanical. It's the same kind of concept, right? Political is not the same thing as partisan. The thing that we do in this country is we keep using the word political to mean partisan. Political and partisan are not the same thing. Political is not partisan. I shouldn't say it's non-partisan. It's bipartisan. Perhaps a better way to describe it, right? So when we say political, you don't think Democrat or Republican or socialist or communist or anything. You just think political, right? Government stuff, right? Government function. That's what the word political means. Partisan now, that's where you're getting tribal. That's where you're getting team. That's where you're getting left versus right. That's where you're getting Democrat versus Republican. So if you actually understand what the words mean, then all this makes sense. All the confusion and the back and forth, it all makes sense. And once again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, if there's anyone else that clarifies this detail, or is everyone else just going along with he says political, it's not political, not even really having a comprehension and understanding of like what's happening here. So what Oliver meant to say is that he didn't intend for his song to be partisan, not political, partisan. Partisan is what he has a problem with. He clearly has no issue with it being political. It's a political song. He intended for it to be political. He wanted it to be a political song that was not partisan. So what does that mean? If you understand what the words mean, then you understand that should clarify everything for you. But let me clarify further. So what it means is he wanted the song to be a song about politics, political issues, right? The rich men north of Richmond, and how the elites and blah, 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 right? He didn't want it to be partisan. So let's compare the difference. A political song is a song talking about politicians are corrupt. They don't care about us. It's all about money and power and blah, blah, blah. Like everything I've said so far is nonpartisan, right? I'm not making partisan comments, right? You notice everything I said is not something that is directed at any particular side or party or anything like that. It's not. I'm not making partisan statements. I'm making political statements. I'm saying that this is the state of politics in this country. It's a lot of lying. It's a lot of dishonesty. It's a lot of bribes. These are all political statements. Now, if I start saying the Republican Party is so corrupt, they're bought and paid for, and they're white nationalists, and they don't care about the people, or in contrast, the Democrats, they're all a bunch of socialists, and this and that's partisan, right? So if he made the song, and the song was, you know, he says Richmond, north of Richmond, but then every single thing he says is, common critiques of one party or the other. So maybe, like, think about all the critiques of, like, Biden, right? So let's say the song just says, we got the open borders, and we're what else? I mean, it's early in the morning. I got a lot of stuff going on. But just think about it. Go to any right-wing channel, and whenever they're, like, going after the Democrats, think about their buzzwords and their critiques. Imagine if his song was just filled with that, right? You know, every single thing, like the stuff about, like, Biden is so old, and who's really running the country, and they steal our election, like all of the right-wing talking points. If that's how the song was written, then that would make it a partisan song, right? And then you could see, like, maybe he didn't think about it. He didn't realize how partisan it sounded, and now he's like, oh, I didn't really want it to be partisan, right? But that's not what he did. He made a political song. I'm sure there's some elements that you could say this is more a left-wing problem or a right-wing problem, but overall, he's not leaning and focusing on one side or the other. He's critiquing American politics, right? Which is a non-partisan critique. It's a political critique. It's a political song, not a partisan song. It's not about sides. It's not about left versus right. Not about Democrats versus Republican. It's about the state of politics. So that's all it is. It's as simple as that. It's a political song. People are taking it as a partisan song, and he doesn't like that because that was not his intention. It was not his intention to be leaning on one side or the other, right? That's the problem. There's two words. It's like the right-wing misunderstanding of, gender versus sex. They act as if gender and sex are the same thing, and that leads to a lot of confusion because you don't understand what the words mean. Here we are, same kind of problem. Politics, partisanship versus politics, right? A song being partisan versus a song being political. A partisan song leans to one side or the other. A political song doesn't focus on sides, it just focuses on politics in general, which is what his song does, in my view. That's all it is. Breaking Points did a video and failed, like most of the media. That's talking about this particular point about whether it's political or not. And it's not that I'm smarter than them or anything like that. The reason why I come to the point of views that I do, which will, sort of stray away from the mainstream, whether it's mainstream, independent, left or right, is just because I actually am thoughtful. When I consume information, I think for myself, I make my own analysis, and I'm a very analytical person, so I comprehend what is being said, what words are being used, and I make an analysis of, like, what is being communicated, what's happening here, and because I'm doing that on my own, I'm gonna find myself sometimes coming with a unique perspective that others won't get because others are, like, in their little bubble, right? They're little bubble. There's a little group think and all the tribalism and stuff like that. If people unplugged, they would be able to see the same things that I do. Like, it's not that I'm particular a genius or something like that. It's just getting out of tribes allows a certain level of clarity of what's really going on, and allows for a more clear thought process. And I think Crystal failed at that on this particular topic. Her and many others in the media. I haven't heard anyone in the media that has clarified this whole thing of political versus partisan for the song, right? They're all just, he made the mistake. He's the one who said it. I didn't want to be a political song, but no one sat there and thought about it, like, realized, like, what's really happening here, right? Wrong word choice. And the reason he's doing the wrong word choice is because the same people that are sitting there confused, like, oh, it's a political song. You are the ones that have been misusing the word political. You've been seeing politicians doing it all the time. You don't call them out. They always go and say, oh, this is political, right? When everything government is political, right? This is exactly why I keep pushing back against using words improperly, right? If you don't use words properly, then that hinders communication. When you say things, no one knows what you really mean. If people keep misusing the word literally, when you want to say literally, for real, how does anyone know that you actually mean literally? When we misuse the word political and make it like a pejorative, how do people know what do you actually mean when you're saying political, right? When we misuse the word conspiracy theorist, right, or conspiracy theory, make it a pejorative when it's not a pejorative, right? Then people don't understand what you mean when you're saying conspiracy theory. right? Are you talking about some nutcase talking about lizard people, or are you talking about something that is, someone has a theory about a conspiracy, and it's rational. You may disagree with it, but at least it's rational. It's fact based. It's not lizard people, right? Words have meanings, and we should try to use them appropriately. Otherwise, we're going to have problems communicating, because the purpose of words is to communicate ideas. And if you're not using them correctly, then you're going to have trouble communicating the ideas that you want to communicate, because no one's going to know what the hell you're talking about, right? If you don't follow systems, like, red light means stop, green light means go, right? If people had their, well, yeah, that's just people say, but when I look at a green light, I think actually that means I should stop, and you're being anal. You're being anal, like, what's the big deal, So a lot of people think green means stop and red means go. That's their opinion and whatever, and language is flexible. No, some things are objectively true, right? Words have specific meanings. If you want to communicate an idea, use the word appropriate to that idea. There's no reason to be using a word to communicate something that the word doesn't actually mean, right? That's just chaos. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click the like button, subscribe, so I stop bell. Big one.